Today we're crocheting a crescent bag with an optional button closure, and here it is without a button. And for this bag you can also wear it crossbody, sort of like a belt bag, and you can make this bag as small or as big as you want, and I will be going over every single step of this project, including sewing on the button. You can find the free written pattern at vivcrochets.com or at the link in the description box below, and if you do enjoy this tutorial, please leave a like or comment to let me know. Thanks so much, and let's get into the materials. For this project, I used just under 100 grams of medium weight yarn, and I used Big Twist Favorite Cotton in the color Green Olive, and it's a medium weight cotton yarn, and I do recommend cotton for bags because it's less stretchy. And I'll also use a 5mm hook, some scissors, and a yarn needle. And if you want to add the button closure, you'll need a button, some thread, and a sewing needle. And this button is about 2 centimeters wide. I actually created this pattern with the help of Milanote. Milanote is an online tool that can help you visually organize your creative projects by compiling your inspiration, keeping your notes and research all in one place, and allowing collaboration with others. I used Milanote to help me organize my thoughts to plan out my design for this bag. And you can start with a blank board, or you can choose from the many templates that they have. And I started with the project plan template, and here I could be very clear with what I wanted my bag to look like, what I needed to do throughout this design process, and what the costs would be. You can also add a board within a board, which is a really useful feature. In the inspiration column, I have a mood board to compile ideas for what kind of look I wanted to go with for my bag. In my mood board, I added some pictures of bags that I was inspired by using the web clipper. It's super quick and convenient because it lets you add images to your board without having to copy and paste the image or take a screenshot. And you can add links to your board, so I was able to close all the tabs I had open for each of these images. I also added color swatch cards to help me figure out what color I wanted the bag to be, and I created a column to organize the images and links of the stitches that I wanted to use for the bag. And then I also added these arrows to organize the images with their links. Back in my project plan board, I listed what I decided on for my color, stitch, and construction. Then I drew a sketch of my bag with the dimensions I decided on and how I would crochet it. I often come up with an idea in my head and then later forget it, so this list and sketch will keep a record of my thoughts and ideas. And then finally, I can make a note of the yarn that I'll need for my bag in my budget table. If you guys want to start designing your own crochet patterns, I highly recommend fleshing out your ideas and noting them all down like this. And they also have a mobile app so you can view your boards and make changes on the go. For example, you can check items off your to-do list, or you can quickly view the yarn that you're planning to purchase. If you want to try Milanote for free, click on the link in the description box below. Thank you to Milanote for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into the tutorial for this bag. We'll start by making a half circle for the side panel of the bag. First, we're going to make a slip knot. And to make a slip knot, place the yarn over your hand with the tail end at the bottom, and then grab the yarn with your thumb and make sure you have at least 4 inches underneath your thumb. And then we're going to grab the top and we're going to wrap it around 2 fingers to form an X. And then you can hold it with your pinky. And we're going to take our hook and we're going to go under one side of the X and then over and grab the other side and pull it through. And then we're going to remove our fingers and then tighten the knot. Next, we're going to chain 2, and to chain, yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. Again, yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. So there are 2 chains, and we're going to work a half double crochet into the first chain that we made, this one over here. And to do a half double crochet, we're going to yarn over and insert your hook into that first chain we made. So go through this V, and we're going to go under that top loop, and we're also going to try to go under the loop in the back. So now we're under these 2 loops, and then there's 1 loop underneath our hook. And then to continue the half double crochet, we're going to yarn over and pull through the chain, and we should have 3 loops on our hook. we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And there is our first half double crochet. And you see that hole right there at the bottom? We're going to continue working into that same chain. So we're going to go back into this hole right here, and we're going to add 3 more half double crochets. So again, to do a half double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into that same chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. So there are our first 2 half double crochets, and we're going to do 2 more into that same chain for a total of 4 half double crochets. And there are our 4 half double crochets, and that is row 1. Now for row 2, we're going to start every new row by chaining 1. And then we're going to turn. So we're going to flip it so we can work back across the top of that first row. For row 2, we're going to do an increase into every stitch. And an increase is doing 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So we're going to be working under each of these V's at the top. And the first stitch is this one all the way on the right side. So there's our chain 1. And then to the left of it, that one's our first stitch. So we're going to yarn over and go in from the side and under that V. And we're going to do a half double crochet. So there's 1 half double crochet into our first stitch, and we're doing 2 half double crochets into every single stitch. So we're going to yarn over, go back into that same stitch. You see that hole right underneath our first half double crochet? We'll go into that space, that first stitch, and do our second half double crochet. And there's our first increase into our first stitch. Now we're going to move on to the next stitch, this one here, and we're going to do an increase into this stitch as well. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook in from the side, and under the V. And then we're going to complete our half double crochet. So there we have 1 into this stitch, and we'll go back into this stitch and do a second half double crochet. So there's 2 into this stitch now, and we'll continue doing 2 half double crochets into each stitch across. And there is row 2. Now I should have a total of 8 stitches in this row. Now for row 3, again, we're going to start every new row by chaining 1 and then turning. And for this row, we're going to do an increase into every second stitch. So the first stitch is going to be just 1 half double crochet, and the second stitch will be 2 half double crochets, and then 1 half double crochet, 2 half double crochets, and so on. So first we'll go into this first stitch over here, and we'll do 1 half double crochet. And then we'll move on to the next stitch, and we'll do 2 half double crochets into this stitch. So in our first stitch, we have 1 half double crochet, and in our second stitch, we have 2 half double crochets. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way across. So the next stitch is going to have only 1 half double crochet, and then the next will have 2. And then we repeat it again, 1 half double crochet, and then 2 half double crochets. And your final stitch should always end with an increase, as long as you follow the pattern correctly. And there is row 3, and now you should have a total of 12 stitches. And for row 4, we're going to start by chaining 1 and then turning. And for this one, we're going to do an increase into every third stitch. So the first stitch, we'll just do 1 half double crochet, and the second, just 1 half double crochet, and the third will have 2 half double crochets. And this is the pattern we're repeating for this row. In the next stitch, we'll do 1 half double crochet, and then 1 half double crochet, and then 2 half double crochets. And again, the very last stitch of the row should line up to be an increase. And if it's not, then you might have miscounted. And there is our 4th row, and you should have a total of 16 stitches. And you can see our half circle is just continuing to grow, and we're going to keep adding rows until we get the size of the bag that we want. And to continue adding rows, we chain 1, turn, and then this next row we're going to increase in every 4th stitch, and you can start to notice the pattern. We increased in every single stitch, and then in every 2nd stitch, and then every 3rd stitch. Now we'll do every 4th stitch. So there is row 5, and row 6 we're going to increase in every 5th stitch. For row 7 we're going to increase in every 6th stitch. For row 8 we're going to increase in every 7th stitch, and we're just going to continue adding rows until we get the size of the bag that we want. Just note that the bigger you make it, the more it'll bend and lose its shape when you wear it on your shoulder. So if you do want to use it as a shoulder bag, I recommend you keep it the same size I made it, or even smaller. And just a quick tip, once you get to a higher number row, like this one is row 14, and I have to increase in every 13th stitch. And if you don't want to count out every 13th stitch, you can look at the previous row and look for the next increase. So you can see in row 13, there's an increase right here. So that means that the stitch to the right of it is going to be the 13th stitch of this new row. So again, here is the increase in row 13. The increase for row 14 should go to the right of it. So just half double crochet, and then once you reach that stitch to the right of this increase, just know that this is the 13th stitch, and you'll do an increase into that stitch. So here I did 14 rows, and it's about 25 centimeters wide and about 13 centimeters tall. And again, this is going to be the side of the bag, so this is how big your bag is going to be. And now we're going to fasten off, and to fasten off we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to make sure we leave it long enough to sew this to our strap. And I like to take double the length that we're going to sew, so I'm just going to measure out double this length. So that's 1, and then I'll go back around to get double that length, and then plus a few inches for the tail end. And we'll cut our yarn and then pull through with our hook and tighten the knot. And here is our completed side panel of our bag, and we're going to make a second identical panel. So make sure you do the same number of rows, and then make sure you fasten off with this extra long loose end. Now we're going to do the strap, and we're going to start the strap with a slip knot. And now we're going to chain the width of the strap that we want. So the width of the strap will also end up being the depth of your bag. So from our half circle, we already have the width and the height of your bag, we're going to add the strap and it'll add depth to your bag. So we're going to chain until we get that width that we want. So for my bag, I'm going to make it about this wide. So I have 6 chains. And once you have the width, we're going to chain 1 more. And then we're going to skip that chain and work into the second chain from the hook. And we're going to do a half double crochet. And for this part, you don't have to go under the back loop of the chain as well. You can just go through the V and just under the top loop and do a half double crochet. And then we'll move on to the next chain. And we'll do a half double crochet. And we'll continue working across, doing 1 half double crochet into each chain. And there's the first row of our strap. And to add a new row, chain 1 and turn. And just do 1 half double crochet into each stitch across. And since I did 6 chains plus 1, I should have 6 total stitches for every single row. So there's row 2. Again, to add a new row, chain 1, turn, and do a half double crochet into each stitch. And continue adding rows to increase the length of our strap. So the length we're making the strap isn't going to be your typical length. It's going to be how long you want it to be, plus the length underneath your side panel. So here I've done 110 rows on my strap, so it's about 31 inches or 79 centimeters long. And this is what I mean by the strap has to go under the side panels. It'll go all the way around. And I always make my straps a little bit shorter than what I want them to be because it will stretch. And once you're happy with the length of your strap, we can fasten off. And to fasten off, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to leave it long enough to sew this end to the other end. So we're going to make sure it's double this length, and then plus the length of our loose end. And we'll cut our yarn, pull through with our hook, and tighten the knot. And here is our strap. And now we should have all 3 pieces of our bag and we're ready to assemble it. First, we'll take one of the side panels and we're going to take the strap and we're going to take the strap. So I have the side panel flipped so that the long loose end is on the right side. And then I'll line up the first row of my strap next to that long loose end. And we'll use this long loose end to sew the bottom of the side panel to the edge of the strap. So let's grab our yarn needle and we're going to thread this long loose end into our yarn needle. And we're going to attach each stitch along this half circle to each row on this strap. So 1 row of the strap is equal to 1 stitch on the half circle. And I like to pinch the 2 edges together and hold it like this. So first I'm just going to get the corners connected. So I'm just going to go behind the strap and into the corner of the strap and pull the yarn through. And that just connects the corners. We're not working into the stitches yet. And now we're going to work into the first stitch on the half circle and the first row on the strap. So we're going to pinch them together like this so we can work through both the half circle and the strap. So we're going to go behind and we're going to go under the first stitch on the half circle. And then we're going to go through the strap as well. So through the side of the first row. Like that. And if you find it hard to count rows, just remember that in between these lines, there are 2 rows. So there's 2 rows here, 2 rows here, and 2 rows here. And we'll pull the yarn through and make sure it doesn't get caught on the edge. You're going to pull it taut, and then we're going to move on to the next stitch and the next row. So again, we're going to go behind and under the next stitch on the half circle, and then into the side of the next row on the strap. And pull the yarn through. Again, we'll go from behind and under the next stitch on the half circle and into the side of the next row on the strap. And we're going to continue working across, attaching each stitch on the half circle to each row on the strap. And make sure that every time you pull your yarn through, you pull it taut, so the yarn isn't loose over here. And then once we've connected the strap all the way around the bottom of the half circle, we're going to make sure that we tie a knot so it doesn't come loose. And to tie a knot, I'm just going to go up under a loop next to where our yarn is coming out. So right here, I'll just go under this loop on the half circle, and then I'll pull my yarn through, but leave a loop at the end, and we're going to go back through that loop, and it'll tie a knot. And then I'll do that one more time for a double knot. And here is how it should look. And now we're going to flip it over. And we'll grab our other side panel and make sure that the long loose end is on the right side. And we're going to attach the bottom of this side panel to the other edge of the strap. So it's going to be like this. So there's that strap width in between the 2 side panels. So we'll thread our long loose end into our yarn needle. And to make sure that it lines up, we're going to look for the last row we attached our side panel to. So that's going to be this row right here. And we're going to make sure that we go into the side of this row with our first stitch. So again, we're just going to attach the corners first. So I'm going to go into the side of that row. So this is the row that we're going to have our final stitch attached to, and I'm just going to go down into the side of that row, but near the top. And then pull my yarn through, and that'll just connect the corners. So we're not working into the stitch yet, just connecting the corners together. And then we can hold our half circle right here and then our strap on this side. And now we can start working into the first stitch. So from behind, under our first stitch, and then into the side of that first row. And it should line up so you can see the first half circle is connected to this row, and so is this second half circle. And we're going to do the same thing we did earlier, just going across, connecting each stitch of the half circle to each row on the strap. And your final stitch should line up with the final row on the strap. And you can see it's not really straight right here, so I'm going to go and connect the corner of the strap to the half circle. So I'll just go a little bit to the left and under this loop, and then I'll go into the corner of the strap and pull the yarn through, and that'll straighten it out. And you don't need to tie a knot here. You can if you want, but I'm going to leave this here and secure it to the loose end once I attach the straps together. And now we have the two side panels connected, and we just need to connect the end of the strap to the other end. So first, make sure that your strap isn't twisted like that, and then we're going to rotate it and take this loose end that we left on the strap and thread it into our yarn needle. So first, we're going to connect the corner of the end of the strap to the bag. So we'll go up through the right side of the first chain, so not through the chain yet, and just pull it and connect the corner to the bag. Now we can start working into the first chain, which you can see right here. We'll go down, and then we'll go up and under the first stitch on the other end. And then we'll go into the next chain, and then the next stitch. And we'll just continue working across, connecting each of the 6 chains and the 6 stitches. And there was our final stitch, but you can see there's a little gap right here. So we're just going to close that by going to the left of that last chain, and then up and into the corner of this end of the strap. And when we pull it through, that should form that cleaner corner instead of having that gap right there. And then we can use this loose end we left earlier and take this loose end from these straps and secure them both by tying a double knot. And now our bag is fully assembled. And the last thing to do is to weave in our loose ends. So I'll just take this loose end from the very beginning on one of our half circles, and I'm going to thread it into my yarn needle. And to hide your loose end, you're basically going under the loops of your stitches and weaving it back and forth to secure it and to hide it. So let's just go under some loops in one direction. And pull the yarn through. And make sure you just pull it until it's taut. You don't want it to scrunch up your project. So we just went in one direction, and I'm going to turn and go in a different direction. So I'm going to go this way instead. And I'll just go under some loops. And pull the yarn through. And there's still a little bit left, so I'll just go a little further. And when it's short like this, you can just put your needle through where you want the yarn to go, and then you can thread it into the needle. And then pull it through. And whatever's left at the end, we can just cut it off. And that loose end is hidden and secure. And now we just need to do that for the rest of our loose ends. And for these really long ones, you can just hide about this much and then cut off the rest. And our bag is finished. And if you want to make a button, here's how we're going to make the button flap. So we're going to start with a slip knot. And then we're going to chain 6, but we're going to make the first chain we make really big. So we're going to pull on this shorter tail and open up the loop around our hook until it's a little bigger than the diameter of our button. So about this big. And this will be the space for our button to go through. And then we're going to make a chain with this giant loop on our hook. So we'll yarn over and pull through. So we have this giant chain, and then we're going to do 5 more chains for a total of 6. And these are just regular chains. And the number of chains will help determine the length of your button flap. So if you want a longer one, you can add more chains. So now I have a total of 6 chains. And now we're going to do a half double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So there's the first chain, this one is the second. And then we'll do a half double crochet into each of the chains until we reach the last one. And now we're at this big chain at the end, and we're going to do 8 half double crochets into this chain. So yarn over and go into the chain. And there's 1. We'll go back in and do 2. And then 3. And 4. And we're going to rotate it and do the next 4 upside down, like this, but into the same chain. So go back into the chain and do 4 more until we have a total of 8. Now this chain at the end has a total of 8 half double crochets, and now we're going to continue working across the chain just on the underside. So now we're going to be working into the chains that we just worked into just on the opposite side. So this one here is the next one we'll work into, and we'll do just 1 half double crochet and then 1 into the next and then into the next and then into the last one. And now we should have a total of 16 stitches in this row. And you want to make sure that your button will fit through this chain at the end. So just push it through. And if it fits, we can continue on to row 2. If it's too small or too loose, then you might want to go back and adjust the size of that first chain. Now for row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to do a half double crochet into the first 4 stitches. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, and then 4. And now we're working around this curve, so we're going to do 1 half double crochet in the next, and then an increase into the next stitch. And we'll repeat this pattern of increasing into the second stitch 4 total times. So that's our first repetition. And we'll do our second one, just 1 half double crochet, and then 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. There's our second repetition. We'll do another one, 1 half double crochet, and then 2 half double crochets. There's our third repeat, and we'll do 1 and then 2 into the next stitch. And we've repeated that pattern 4 times around the curve, and we're back at our last 4 stitches. So we'll just do 1 half double crochet into each of the last 4 stitches. And here is the button flap. You can go to your bag and make sure that it fits. So the button will be right here. And if you like how it looks, we can fasten off. And to fasten off, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to cut our yarn long enough to sew this part to one of our side panels. So we'll measure out double this length. And then plus enough for a tail end. We'll cut our yarn, pull through with our hook, and tighten the knot. And then I'm just going to hide this loose end really quickly before we sew this onto the bag. Now to sew the button flap on, we're going to flip our bag upside down, and we're going to attach the edge of the flap to the center of the top side panel. So let's thread this long loose end we left into our yarn needle, and then we're going to line it up along the center, and then we're going to hold it like this, and we're going to first connect the corner like we always do, and then we're going to start working across. And here we don't have actual stitches, we're just working into the side of the rows, so just go under any loops that line up. And then we'll go a little bit to the left and go under the 2 loops that line up. And slowly work our way across. And once it's attached, we can tie a knot. And now it'll look like this, and we can fold it down over, and once we add the button, we can use it to close our bag. Next, we need to figure out where we want our button to be, and we're going to loosely fold it over. So right here, there's no gap. We're going to push it up a little bit to allow for some space in between the side panels. So my button is going to go right here. So that's going to be about right here. And that's just inside the 3rd row. And now we're going to sew our button on. First, we're going to thread the needle, and we'll pull it through until it's about 1 foot long. And we'll cut our thread, and we'll tie 4 or 5 knots on the end. Until we get a big knot like this. Then we'll look at where the right hole of the button is going to be. We'll go from the inside and poke our needle out where the right hole of the button is going to be, and make sure the knot we tied gets caught on the inside of the bag and it doesn't go through. Then we'll go through the hole of the button, and we'll go over and into the other hole, then back through the bag but slightly to the left. Then we're going to start going through the bag and the button through both holes to secure it. And now I'm just going to go through this hole, but I'm not going to go through the bag. And then I'll wrap the thread around the button a few times. And this will add some space between your bag and the button to make it easier to use. And now we're going to tie a knot, and by the way, you want to leave your thread a little longer than I did so it's easier to tie the knot. So first I'll go back through to the inside of the bag, and we're going to tie a knot the same way we did after sewing the side panel to the strap. We're going to go under a loop and pull our thread through, but not all the way. We'll leave a loop and we'll go back through the loop and tighten the knot. And then you can do that a few more times to double or triple knot it. And then I'll hide this loose end and trim it. And then I'll also trim this thread here from the knot at the beginning. And now our button is attached, and we can use this button flap to close the bag. And our crescent bag is finished. And that's all for this video. And if you did enjoy this tutorial, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And shout out to my channel members. Thank you to Yati, Shelly, Lucy, Eilish, Fina, Laura, Amarachi, Taylor, Thelma, Sharon, Brissins, Casey, Allison, Nadine, and Joy. You can become a member of this channel and have these little yarn ball badges next to your name whenever you comment, and other perks such as member shoutouts, early access to new videos, discount codes for my Etsy, help with any of my patterns, and connecting on social media. Thank you again to all my channel members, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.